Okay, so you see here that we've now switched to the idea of productive efficiency, and we're going to first look at it in the terms of perfect competition, and then we'll go on to the monopoly. So perfect competition is pretty easy because it's something that we've already gone over before. We have the average total cost curve, and then we have the low point of the average total cost curve. And when we have a situation, which we have in the long run in perfect competition, where the marginal cost curve crosses the ATC curve, and it's also meeting the marginal revenue curve, this is showing the efficient point. And when that happens, when the profit maximizing output is also at the lowest point of the ATC, which we're seeing here, that is considered to be productively efficient. So perfect competition gets the check for being productively efficient in the long run. Because remember, in the short run they can have profits, so maybe they would be producing. It's possible in the short run to be producing at a level of output that is not at the profit maximizing, or to be producing at a level of output that's not at the low point of the ATC. Okay, so then we go on to a monopoly, and here it's going to get a little more complicated because, as you know, monopoly graphs are always more complicated. So we have the average total cost curve and the marginal cost curve, as we always do. And then we're going to add in here the demand curve and the marginal revenue curve. Okay, so what we're seeing with this is that we see here where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. That's going to be the quantity that the monopolist is going to produce at. At that point, we know, right, they're going to go up to the demand curve to set their price. But in our point, or our focus right now, what we're thinking about, we'll show it going up, is where are they producing? So in other words, if they're producing at this point on the ATC, that's not this point on the ATC, right? So in this case, P1 is not the same price that you would have in perfect competition because it's not at the low point of the ATC. Where they're producing instead is at a lower quantity and a higher cost of production. Because remember, if we go back, for perfect competition, they were producing at the low point of the ATC. This one is not producing at the low point of the ATC. Okay, so to sum it up in terms of productive efficiency, monopolies have higher prices and produce a lower level of output than they would in perfect competition, which we're seeing here, right? They're producing at a level of output that is lower than would be needed to be operating at the low point of the ATC, which we were talking about in this before. So they produce a lower output. Okay, so now we're going to switch to the one more efficiency, which is allocatively efficient. But we're going to consider how, for the monopoly, they are allocatively inefficient because price does not equal marginal cost, which, if you think back to what you saw in the video lecture, that's necessary to be allocatively efficient. So how are we going to show that? What we're going to do again is to draw the same firm graph for the monopolist. And we're going to think about two prices that we're going to label. Okay, we have here P1, and we have here P2. So remember that in order to be allocatively efficient, the price must equal the marginal cost. And so for the monopolist, they're charging price P1. The marginal cost of production is price, let me rephrase that. The monopolist is charging price P2. The marginal cost of production is price P1. So if we go up here, we see that the price, which is priced P2, does not equal P1. They're different prices. So this difference between the marginal cost and the price that the firm is charging shows that this is not allocatively efficient. Okay, so stay with me. This is the last graph that we're going to do, which is showing the concept of X inefficiency. And for this one, it's a little bit simpler in that we're only going to show this using the ATC. So if we think about what we've talked about, a firm that is in perfect competition, right, that can be producing at the low point of the ATC, that is, we're going to label price 1. And this right here is productively efficient. Right? It's the low point of the ATC. That's the lowest possible cost of production for producing that product. Then we can consider a firm that is producing along the average total cost curve at a point of P2. This price, right, is inefficient, and we would call that productively. I'm running out of room. Productively inefficient. Then we can also, here's one point of production, here's another point of production. What if the firm was producing here? It's kind of like a concept that we saw when we looked at efficiency in terms of the PPC. And let's say that they're producing at this point right here, point A. They're not being efficient. They're definitely not being productively efficient, but they're not even producing along the average total cost curve. So this point here, point A, is showing X inefficiency. So to recap, the point at the bottom of the ATC, that's productively efficient. As you move to a different point along the ATC, it becomes productively inefficient. And then if they're producing at a price and quantity that is not along the ATC, that is showing X inefficiency. So that comes to the end. As all good things must do, this video also must end. So this is the end. Hope you have enjoyed your graphing Monopoly inefficiencies video.